Welcome to The Deep Dive. We're the podcast that gets right into the heart of compelling stories and ideas.
That's right. We unpack them to find those insights that really stick with you.
And today, we're heading back to 1985. Picture this. It's a raw, cold November in a small Irish town, New Ross.
Yeah, that setting just grabs you straight away, doesn't it? And the story we're diving into is Claire Keegan's novel, Small Things Like These. It's incredibly moving.
It really is. Our mission today is to explore this narrative, mainly through the eyes of, well, the protagonist, Bill Furlong.
Exactly. We want to get under his skin, understand his character, his key relationships, and that deep internal struggle he goes through when he comes face to face with some very difficult truths.
Yeah, we'll look at how his own past, his, observant nature, kind of leads him toward this huge moral choice. And the way Keegan writes his feelings, his angst, it's just masterfully done.
It really is a brilliant study of quiet courage.
So let's start with Bill Furlong himself. Who is this man?
Well, the book says he came from less than nothing, which is quite stark. He was born to a single mother, only 16, who was then basically cast out by her own family. A really tough start.
Very tough.
But then this figure, Mrs. Wilson, a Protestant widow, steps in, and she's pivotal. She doesn't just give his mother a job, she gives Bill stability, a home, and maybe most importantly, an education, reading, vocabulary.
He really nurtured him.
Absolutely. And she did it without caring what others thought. The book mentions she didn't seem to care much for what judgments others passed. That quiet defiance, that kindness outside the usual social rules must have left a huge mark on him.
You can see how that would plant a seed, right?
Yeah.
Especially later on. And he picks up her habits, too.
Yeah, the good Protestant habits, as Keegan puts it. Getting up early, no real taste for drink, a head for business, reliable. He becomes this very grounded, practical man on the surface.
But underneath that practical surface,
there's this void, this unanswerable question about his father, unknown on the birth certificate. And he remembers the clerk's ugly smile when he got it. That stuff stays with you.
Oh, definitely. Little hurts like that.
And Keegan paints this picture of his childhood Christmases. No Santa, no jigsaw puzzle, no father, just disappointment. But then there's Ned, the farmhand.
Ned. Tell us about Ned.
Ned was the source of quiet kindness, polished Bill's shoes, taught him to shave. He gave Bill the sense, despite everything, that he had come from finer stock. It wasn't about bloodline, maybe, but about decency. Ned offered that sense of belonging.
So he has this mix of stability from Mrs. Wilson, kindness from Ned, but also this underlying question about who he really is, this feeling of maybe being an outsider. How does that play out in his adult life, his family?
Well, his family is his anchor. His wife, Eileen, she's got a practical, agile mind, really canny intuitions. She's the pragmatic one.
The realist.
Definitely. Her advice is often, if you want to get on in life, there's things you have to ignore so you can keep on. It's about survival, keeping things smooth, which, creates this tension later with Furlong's conscience.
Okay. I can see that clash coming.
Ooh.
And his daughters. He has 5, right?
5 daughters, yeah. Kathleen, Joan, Sheila, Grace, and Loretta. They bring him this deep, private joy. He loves watching them do just, small things which needed to be done, like thanking a shopkeeper. Simple stuff.
Things that show good character?
Exactly. And he's proud there at St. Margaret's, the good school. But there's also this undercurrent of worry. He sees men looking at them, wonders if Loretta, the youngest, will be brave enough or able for what the world had in store.
That feels very real, that protective instinct.
And it connects to his awareness of the town, New Ross. It's struggling, the shipyard's closed, redundancies everywhere, businesses shutting down, dole queues getting longer.
Hard times. Raw times, the book calls them.
Yeah, people can barely pay their bills. Stories of farmers leaving cows unmilked, just utter hardship. So Furlong's instinct for a long time is keep his head down and stay on the right side of people. Don't make waves.
Sensible, given the circumstances.
But his basic decency, it sort of leaks out anyway. Giving Mick Sinnot's son a lift and some cash. Leaving logs for people who can't afford fuel. Quiet things. Small things, you could say.
Small things.
Yeah.
Like the title. And this empathy, this awareness of hardship, it eventually brings him into contact with the convent, doesn't it?
It does. The convent looms large in the town. A powerful-looking place, black, wide-open gates. It runs a laundry, has a good reputation on the surface.
But there are whispers.
Always whispers. About girls of low character doing penance. About Magdalene laundries. About babies being adopted out. Things people don't really want to talk about openly.
And we should probably clarify, these Magdalene laundries, they were just laundries, were they?
No, not at all. They were institutions, often run by religious orders, essentially places of forced, unpaid labor for women deemed fallen, unmarried mothers, mostly. It was presented as penance, but the conditions were incredibly harsh. And yes, the separation of mothers and babies was tragically common.
A dark part of history. So
Yeah.
Furlong gets a glimpse inside.
He does. An early delivery. He sees girls down on their hands and knees, polishing, looking scalded, just worn down.
Grim picture.
And then one girl, she speaks to him, desperate. Mister, won't you help us? Just take me as far as the river. Or you could just let me out at the gate. All I want to do is drown myself.
Oh, wow. Chilling. How does he react?
He retreats initially, gets out of there. Who wouldn't? It's deeply unsettling. But it plants something in him.
He can't just forget it.
No, and when he mentions it to Eileen, her reaction is pure self-preservation. Such things had nothing to do with them. Ignore it. Keep your head down.
Back to her practical advice.
Right, but for Furlong, it's different this time. He feels, Keegan writes, something small and hard gathered in his throat. It's like his conscience is physically manifesting.
That's such a brilliant line, the physical feeling of unease.
And it leads him to ask himself that key question, the one that changes everything. But what if it was one of ours? He thinks of his own daughter.
It's personal. Impossible to ignore them.
Exactly. And that leads to the second encounter, the real turning point. Another early delivery, a Sunday morning this time. He feels anxious even going there, felt the strain of being alive, wishes he'd just stayed home.
But he goes.
He goes and finds Sarah in the coal shed, emaciated, hair roughly cut, covered in, well, excrement. It's just in a terrible state.
God.
His reaction is pure instinct, pure empathy. Christ, God love you, child. That basic humanity just cuts through everything.
And Sarah speaks to him, too.
She does. Her plea is heartbreaking. Won't you ask them about my baby? He's 14 weeks old. They've taken him from me now, but they might let me feed him again. That right there becomes his moral burden, asking about the baby.
That's the specific task laid on him, almost.
Yes. And then the Mother Superior arrives. And she's a piece of work.
How so?
Master manipulator. Feigns concern, blames Sarah, tries to distract Furlong with tea, asserts her authority, tries to minimize the whole thing, make him leave quietly.
Trying to smooth it all over.
But something shifts in Furlong. He feels this contrariness to stay on and to hold his ground. He feels like a man amongst women here gains this queer new power. It's unexpected.
He pushes back.
He does. He ignores the nun's presence and asks Sarah directly for her name, where she's from. He doesn't back down. It's the start of him finding his voice, his courage.
A huge moment for someone who usually keeps his head down.
A massive moment. But then he leaves, and the weight of it, especially not asking about the baby, really starts to crush him.
The regret kicks in.
Oh, intensely. Keegan shows it physically. He nicks himself shaving. He tries to scrub the coal dust, the black out from under his nails, like he's trying to scrub away the guilt, the inaction.
It's visceral.
Yeah, and it seeps into everything. He can't even take communion at Mass. He just stays put, feeling like a total hypocrite.
That internal conflict is tearing him apart.
Completely. He feels trapped, suffocated, the description of the room closing in, the repetitive wallpaper. He just wants to escape, walk the length of a dark field, anywhere but inside his own head.
And the specific regret is so sharp, isn't it?
Excruciatingly so. Keegan spells it out. How he'd allowed that and had not asked about her baby, the one thing she had asked him to do, and how he had taken the money and left her there at the table with nothing before her and the breast milk leaking under the little cardigan, and how he'd gone on, like a hypocrite, to Mass.
Oh, the detail about the breast milk is just devastating. That's the core of his angst right there.
That's it, the human cost of his failure to act in that moment. It haunts him.
And then things happen externally that seem to push him further, or maybe confirm the path he needs to take.
Yeah, it's cleverly woven. He visits Mrs. Wilson's old house, and the new owner remarks on his likeness to Ned. It's like a quiet reminder of that legacy of kindness he comes from.
A connection to his better self.
Exactly. But then you get the counterpoint from Mrs. Kehoe, the shopkeeper, pure cynicism.
Yeah.
Basically says you can't challenge the church without damaging yourself. They're all the one. Highlighting the real fear and pressure in the community.
The cost of going against the grain.
Which becomes vividly clear when he finally does act, when he takes Sarah out of there and walks her home. The town's reaction is immediate. People avoid him, whisper, ask loaded questions like, one of those wands from the laundry?
Call Sarah dirty.
Ostracized instantly.
Right there on the street, it shows you exactly what he's up against. The social consequences are real and immediate.
And all this leads him to that fundamental question, doesn't it? The one about being alive. Yes, Was there any point in being alive without helping one another? Was it possible to carry on without once being brave enough to go against what was there and yet call yourself a Christian and face yourself in the mirror? It's his moment of truth.
Can he live with himself if he does nothing?
Essentially, yes. And the answer, ultimately, is no.
So he goes back for Sarah.
He does, and it's described as him battling against his self-preservation. It takes immense courage, but it's quiet courage. No big speeches. He just leads her through the town. His actions speak.
And there's that small, beautiful moment with Sarah at the nativity scene.
Yes. She stops, strokes the donkey, and says, "Isn't he lovely?" It's this tiny flicker of normalcy, of humanity returning, facilitated by his kindness. It's incredibly touching.
And he thinks of Mrs. Wilson again then, doesn't he?
He does. He realizes, had it not been for her, his mother might very well have wound up in that place. It connects everything: his past, Mrs. Wilson's kindness, his mother's vulnerability, Sarah's plight. It solidifies why he has to do this.
It's not just helping a stranger. It's honoring the kindness that saved his own mother.
Precisely. And the feeling it gives him is extraordinary.
Tell me about that. Keegan's description of his emotional state.
It's stunning. He feels this fresh, new, unrecognizable joy. A happiness, it says, he'd never once in his whole and unremarkable life had he known, not even when his daughters were born.
Wow. More profound than the joy of childbirth.
That's what it says. It's not simple happiness, I think. It's the profound relief and rightness of finally aligning his actions with his conscience. Liberation.
Liberation from that angst, that regret.
Yes, and even though he's scared, his fear more than outweighed every other feeling deep down. In his foolish heart, he not only hoped but legitimately believed that they would manage. There's this newfound faith, almost.
Faith in what? In goodness? In themselves?
Maybe faith in the act itself. Faith that doing the right thing is enough, somehow.
Yeah.
And the understanding that the absolute worst thing, the inaction, the thing he didn't do but could have, is now behind him. He doesn't have to live with that regret anymore.
He's free from that specific internal torment. That's the victory.
That's the core victory, I think. It's a psychological and moral triumph over his own fear and complicity.
So looking back at his journey, it's really from this quiet, decent man, shaped by kindness, but also hardship and maybe a bit of fear.
Yeah, wrestling with those agitating thoughts, that tenseness.
To someone who finds the courage to act, based on empathy, on his own history, and faces down the community's silence.
It's a powerful transformation, rooted in his own experience and this deep well of compassion he perhaps didn't even know he fully possessed until tested.
It really underscores that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just doing the right thing when everyone else looks away. Refusing to ignore the small things.
Exactly. The quiet defiance, looking squarely at what's uncomfortable and choosing to act despite the potential cost.
Which leaves you thinking, doesn't it? In our own lives, when it's so easy to just, ignore things, keep our heads down, what does courage actually look like for us?
And what are those small things, maybe seemingly insignificant actions or choices that we face, the things we choose not to ignore? How do they end up defining who we are, both as people and maybe as a society?
A powerful question to ponder. It certainly stays with you long after you finish the book.
It absolutely does.